Hello and welcome. My name is Kathleen, and tonight we're going to talk about something that a lot of people think BAs shouldn't do, and they're wrong. Sorry, but they are. Either people think that it's not a part of the job, or it's not something that maybe personally you feel like you can do, but the reality is it's a good thing to have in your toolbox. It makes you much more valuable as an employee, and it turns out that it can really help streamline your overall requirements process. So we're going to talk real quick about how you actually go through the process of creating what I call quick and dirty layouts, okay? Whether you call them layouts or wireframes or comps, doesn't matter. The point is, it's a real easy, simple way to put them together that either can become a part of your requirements or can be something that you hand over to your user interface folks. So let's get things started and we will dive right in. Should lose that first. And Mr. Murphy is perky. Hello and welcome. My name is Kathleen, and tonight we're going to talk about, actually not just talk about, I'm going to show you how you can go about creating quick and dirty, which is not a bad thing, layouts for your requirements. So you can actually comp out, spec out how you are suggesting that the changes be made to your software product. And focus the conversation. It will make your requirements gathering more focused. It will make your conversations more fruitful, and actually it's a good thing to have in your toolbox, right? It's another skill that you can have, that makes you more valuable to your company or your next company, however it is you want to go about it. And even if you are lucky enough to have user experience or user designer as part of your team, this will actually help too. They won't be offended by this, I promise you, because I've done that work too. They will think that this is helpful because it helps them jumpstart when they go in to do their version of it. So we're going to dive right in and we're going to talk about how you do this, where you do this, and the fact that you don't have to have expensive tools to get it done. So for those of you who were around for the conversation last time, you will remember that we were comparing 3 different sites and talking about how you go through and evaluate the user interfaces, how you would talk about what works and what doesn't, and what suggestions you would make as far as making changes to it. So we're going to use those same examples that we used last time. If you didn't catch last time, you can just go ahead and jump in and get caught up on that later. Right? It's all good. It's fine to do these out of order. It's not a problem at all. I'm just going to get all the screens back to the same point. And then this way, you can have that cohesive overview of everything. I am just going to check really quick to make sure that the comment tool is working. No, we don't need to hear me twice. We say that every time. Okay, so it looks like it is working. Okay, cool. Yay! And of course, Periscope, I am going to watch your comments. I've got your screen up, so you don't have to worry about that. You can go ahead and just comment away. If you have your own recommendations, your own examples, go right ahead. I'm just getting everything up. Just go right ahead and throw them in there. And if you're watching this on a replay, again, go ahead, throw your thoughts, your questions into the comments. We do make a point of going in and checking to make sure that we are taking care of everybody. So no worries, we've got you covered. Okay, so the first thing to talk about is the tool that you're going to want to use, right? So there's a bunch of tools out there, and there's a lot of very good ones. They're all, whatever you have, generally, you can make work. But I am going to be working tonight with a tool that you've heard us talk about before, waxing poetic even, you might say, and that is Snagit. Just bringing it up here so you can see what the site looks like. Okay, so I think this will work. Yes. So you've heard us talk about Snagit before. Snagit is a great tool. Not only can you do screen captures with it, but you can also create videos with it, with or without voice. You can even edit those videos. It is frankly an amazing tool. And the price, I just always go in and check because I'm never, I keep waiting for it to change, and it's not. It's $50. So hopefully, your business will pay for it. If you don't already have it, it is sort of the de facto standard at this point. But frankly, I've gone into shops that didn't have it, didn't want it, thought they didn't want it. And so I've just bought my own copy. Frankly, I've had my own copy for years now, because it is just so useful for me in my day-to-day life, in my work life, in my side gig life. So for $50, I just go ahead and pay for it. So this is the tool we're using. That doesn't mean it's the only tool, obviously, but it is one that most people have, and it is quick and easy to do these kinds of things in, so that's what I'm going to be using as the example. For those of you who are on Facebook and on YouTube, I put links into the description. Those are affiliate links, so if you do buy through that, It's a way of saying thank you because we'll get a couple of pennies from them. Believe me, it's not making us rich, but hey, every penny counts, right? All of this stuff costs money. But obviously you don't have to do that. It's just there as an option if you want to take advantage of it. That's all cool. Okay, so just to refresh you, last time we were talking about how you go through and evaluate and compare different user interfaces, and we went through actual examples. So again, if you missed that, it's out there. You can go catch it on Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook. So we're going to use the same examples today. So we're going to use Mixer, Twitch, and DLive. Okay, and so the example that we're going to use tonight is how you would go through and take the best examples out of all of this to create your recommendation for how the login and sign up process should look. So let's just go ahead and dive in. One thing I do want to mention about Snagit is that you can, just as a quick power user tip, you can go into it and you can define, I think it's in settings. I should have looked for this before. Pretty sure it's in settings. I just have to find the settings. Is it presets maybe? Anyway, there is a way to go in and specify like what your default file name is for stuff. The reason that is handy is if you are, whether you're working alone or you're working with a team, I find it easier, especially when you're in a situation where maybe like you're working on different applications for your company. So very often they have like an internal app, maybe an intranet or internal tools. Or maybe they have one tool set for the internal users and one tool set for the external users, usually web-based these days. What I do when I'm doing this for real is I go in and I set the default pattern for the file names that Snagit's going to catch to the program name, and then I let it add on the specific. So it'll automatically increment the counter, and you can also put a date on it so you can keep track of things. I find this turns out to be really helpful as you go down the road when you're like, wait a minute, we had fixed that. Where did that go? Because sometimes things get lost when they're combining code, you know, in the developer's team, or maybe they're building the release packet and something gets, you know, maybe they pull the wrong version. It's really good to have these screen captures to go back to and go, no, wait, look, here, I've got the date on this, and look, it was here, and now I took the screen capture today and it's gone. So just for reference and for your own mindset, it just makes life easier if you go ahead and do that for yourself, because it makes it much easier later when you're going back for something. But for the purposes of tonight, we're just going to go in and do things quick and dirty because that's what this is all about. So we're going to use DLive as the example. So we're going to make believe we're working for DLive, right? And DLive is kind of far down the list, right? You know, right now, all the competition is about Mixer and Twitch. Now, depending on when you see this, that game may have changed. But as of this date, those are the two that are sort of competing right now. Twitch is sort of the one everybody's going after, and Mixer has just made some big moves. Sorry, the puppy's looking for something. Mixer has just made some big moves and are making a run at the market share that Twitch has. So we're going to say we're working for DLive, who are looking to get into this game, right? But when we did the tests last week, we found that there were some serious issues with the user interface. So we're going to use them as our focus, right? And then we're going to take pieces from the other two. I'm multitasking here. He wants his biscuit ball, but he does not know how to get the pieces that fall off inside. So I'm doing that for him because that's what we do as VAs, right? We multitask the heck out of every day. There you go, Murph. Okay, that'll keep him quiet for a little while. All right. The other thing I just want to say is I am working under a bit of a challenge because I'm doing this with a mouse tonight. I do everything with a tablet, but my tablet worked today. So it'll be okay. I mean, most people just use mice, but it's a little awkward for me because I use a stylus for everything. But that's okay. It's good. It's a good challenge, all right? So just so you can see, when you're going into, let me just minimize this because there's a lot of stuff going on there. And here, we'll even take this up a notch. This is a good thing to do when you're doing like presentations or demos and stuff, is to go in and turn off your desktop icons just so people aren't distracted. So this is your basic view for Snagit. If you go in here, whoops, so it's defaulted to video. Or you can do an all-in-one, which combines things. Most of the time, you're going to want image, which is this middle tab here. And then when you go here, you can select region, which means that you can just highlight a section of your screen to capture. Window, obviously the full window. Full screen will be the whole screen. So when you say window, it'll contain itself to like the browser, the active browser window, and leave off like the address line and stuff. If you say full screen, it'll take the whole thing. Scrolling window is a way for it to automatically scroll down. I have success with that. It seems to have a problem with some of the updates to the browsers. The solution to that is panoramic. If you select panoramic, you select the area, and then you tell it to start, and then you manually scroll it, and it does a much better job. So that's the one I recommend using. You can just grab the text, and then there's some other different combinations that you can do as far as like freehanding stuff and all that. Most people don't ever use this, so you don't have to worry about it. These are the ones you're going to use the most, and really it's going to be probably window and panoramic and region are probably the three you're going to use. You can also set your shortcuts, so like if you prefer to use your screen, you can do that, or you can actually click over here and press a hotkey. I am going to leave it on print screen, but you can actually just, well, here I'll just show you. You can, like, so if I pressed F9, then automatically now if I pressed F9 on my keyboard, it would automatically be taking screen captures. I'm just going to set this back because actually this is what I always do, is print screen. Okay, alrighty. Yeah, this we could get into it. Like we could do like multiple weeks just on this tool, so we'll stay focused. All right, let me get this out of the way and get our tools up. Alrighty, so to start with, what you're going to want to do is take a screen cap of your basic environment that you're looking now to enhance. So in our case here, as this example, it's going to be this. I have it set to full screen. I didn't want to do that. So if you hit escape, you can get out. No, I had region set, so I don't know why it said that. Okay, so I'm going to set it to window, just because that'll speed things up. So you see how now it's just getting the area inside the browser window. It's not getting the whole thing. If I go up here, it will, but by staying down here, you can see the little yellow line. So we're going to grab this. Okay, and that'll give us our starting point. So let me just show you. So you can set this to either just let you keep taking screen captures, or if you prefer the validation, you can have it open up in the Snagit editor so that you can see that it was successful, that you got what you wanted. And down here, it's going to show you the history of all the other screen captures you took to a date. And then you can go into a library that will show you here. I can show you that real quick. Can't really do this without it not turning into a Snagit. But then you can actually go into a library that takes you farther back in history. Obviously, this is my streaming system, so I don't do a lot of captures here. All right, so we have that. The other power tip that I'm just going to tell you is what I always do when I'm going to be editing is I always go in and I make a copy so that I always have my original capture in case I need to go back to it. So I'm going to come in here and say duplicate. Okay, and now I have two versions of this. They're exactly the same. I'll just show you this as comparison. Okay, so these two are exactly the same, and I'm going to work in this first one here because that way, if I do need to go back, I do have that option. All right, so we had established last time that the sign up for this could probably use a little help. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another capture, and I'm going to do it in context, right? So you could do it just with this window here. It looks like in this, the way it's coded, you would have to do it as region, but I'm just going to do it this way. All right. And then you're going to want to go to your other platforms where you have found the bits and pieces that you think maybe are worth borrowing, creatively borrowing for your application. So let's start off here with the sign up for Twitch, and we're going to take this screen capture. Now again, I'm going to take the whole thing just for the context of it. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing in Mixer. Now in this one, it's actually a two-step, so I'm going to take both steps. That's one. Oops. And that was two. I have to admit, I was a little torn between fixing Mixer and fixing DLive. But I figured DLive was the bigger challenge. Okay, so now we have our basic screen capture. So let me go in here. So we have the two-step version for Mixer, right? And then we have the one-step version for Twitch, right, the purple one. And we're going to just focus on the sign up right now, and then we'll see if we have time, maybe we'll do the login too. So again, I'm going to duplicate these because I am far more likely to need the backups on these. So I'm going to do both on that. I'm going to do both on that. And on this one. Okay, so here we go. So now I'm going to, let's see. So this is what we've got. I can zoom in on this a little bit. So down here is where you can zoom in, and you can either do it this way or you can do actual size to screen. So I'm just going to do it this way. This is pretty good. Okay. So we're going to look at this and we're going to go, okay, this has got some pretty basic stuff. Just from a UI standpoint, the dark background on the dark background does make it a little hard for people to figure out where they're supposed to focus. So that is something to think about. And maybe, the company has decided that they maybe want to get a little bit more information, more along the lines of what Twitch has got going on. Right? So maybe they've decided that, the lawyers have said we really need to be collecting, more information like this is. And then then we would look at this and say, well, was there anything about this that we liked? Now, the two-step process, not so much. That clearly that was done because they're trying to force everybody to use their Microsoft ID, and just for general information's sake, as you're going through this process, as we talked about last week, you do want to make sure that you are addressing everything across the board, because there should be a seamless and consistent process all the way through whatever platform people are coming in on. So, if they're signing up on the web or they're signing up in an app, or, like in Microsoft's case, if they're coming in through the Xbox or something like that, you want to make sure that those patterns are consistent. And I can tell you that they're not right now in Mixer. So if you're trying to use the Mixer app on Android specifically, even though on the web, and I believe on the Xbox too, you can sign in with just a username or an email address and a password, the only thing that it's letting you do on Android is sign in with a Microsoft ID. So that is something like, if this was different, if we had gone and said, okay, we're doing this, we're fixing this for Mixer, that would be a part of the requirement that you would build in, is like, okay, we need to simplify this, we need to be consistent, we've got inconsistencies across the different applications, and we'd want to go in and document all of those. So that's just a side note for this process here. Okay, let's go back in. And let's take that down. All right, so as far as Microsoft goes, maybe we like the way that they're doing their fields, maybe not, maybe we like the size of their buttons, but we've got some different pieces to work with. So we're going to start off by going into the Twitch one, because we do like the nice clean look of it. Also, they've got this little, piece of text down here. Now, there's not enough contrast on it, so we know that that's an accessibility issue, but we can fix that later. So let's just say for the heck of it that we're going to come in and use this. Okay, and I will show you just how quick and easy this can be. So the first trick here is, and actually maybe I should do this first, is to take this. Oh, but wait, there's an important part to this. So before you actually do anything in here, you want to come over to this side, okay, and you want to make use of the magic, okay, autofill. So what this does is when you go in and you, let's just delete something, take something out, it tries to fill in the background for you. So back in the day, you would have had to manually go back and do this. But now this tool is set up to automatically do it for you. Now, like anything else, it's not 100%, but I'd say it's easily 96%. So that's a pretty massive win. So you do want to come over here and make sure you've got this turned on. And then you've got a couple options here, speed and photo quality. This is experimental, so I say just stick with speed. All right, so the first thing that you want to do, oh, it held on to this. You want to catch it as close as you can, which is why I usually do. Here, let me. You want to catch it as close as you can to the actual piece that you're trying to copy, because what you want to do here, we're going to need more space, right? So they've used up all this space with just a couple of fields, but if we're looking to, come on, add more, right? So we're going to need more space. So what you do, as again, this is all about quick and dirty. You're going to highlight it, you're going to do copy, and then paste, and then just shift this up a little bit. Or, you can shift it down. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But you're going to do it like this, right? Try to get it as lined up as you can. I'm a little OCD about this stuff. The other thing that you can do, I really should have had this. I don't know if this is working. Let's see. Hang on, I want to see if the keyboard thing is working. Table? Oh, it is. Okay, hello. So when you're going to rearrange a piece like we're going to do right now, so this piece, oops, I should have thought about this ahead of time. I didn't really set it up for this. So let me cut over. So this is kind of lined up here, but it's not quite perfect. So what I want to do is I'm going to use the keyboard to kind of nudge it into place. So let me show you how I do that. So you come here and, oops, I don't have it selected anymore. While it's selected, okay, you see how I can move it? but you can even fine tune it by holding the shift key down. Oops, can't really see the shift key. Okay, so I got the shift key here. Okay, and so when I push this down and I use the arrow keys, now I can really dial in and align this exactly the way I want it. So I'm going to go up a little bit more because I'm going to want a little bit more space. Okay, and then there it goes. Now that's, again, that's kind of a power user thing, but hey, we're all power users here. Or pretty close to it. Okay, so now you've got this and you're like, but that looks really weird, Kath. Yes, it does. So another keyboard control, and I've been doing it by keyboard so long I've forgotten how to do it here. But so if you select flatten all, so let me just show you what that means. So right now, okay, this is a separate piece, but if you come up here and say flatten all or Control Shift T, it will turn this into one image. So now you can see like we've got this line here and all that. So there's a couple ways that you can go about fixing this. One is you could try coming in, maybe we'll try this and see what it does. So we'll come in here and we'll select this. And since we've got autofill on, there's a chance that it might fill it in with the black, with the kind of like dark grayish background, but maybe not. But the only way to find out is to do it. And actually, damn, that did a pretty damn good job, huh? That's pretty good. Okay, so that's a win. If not, so let's just say that didn't work, right? Let's just go back. So let's say for whatever reason that didn't work. Another way that you can do it is grab a piece of the screen that is the color that you need. Again, copy and paste, and then you can just paste it in. Now, if it's not a gradation, sometimes you can get away with doing something like this. You could, again, you kind of have to play with it and see, but like in this case, it looks like I could just have done this and gotten pretty much the same, but you see how much more work this is, right? So I'm going to just undo these again. Okay, and so I'm going to go back to this. Ooh, let's do it up here because we're trying to get rid of this line here. Okay, and I go edge to edge. Now you do want to leave a little bit of an edge here because you don't want it to pick up that darker background. And then you do delete and poof. Now there is a bit of a possible, like this might just be the background coming through, so I think we're okay. At first glance it looked like maybe we were losing something on this edge here, but I think it's actually okay. All right, so next you're going to want to take, now this stuff will probably leave here, but these need to come down. So I always, just for sanity's sake, I always flatten it just for the heck of it. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to highlight these, and again, because we've got the autofill on, we're going to try to cut it. Oops, sorry, wrong move. Just like this. Okay, and again it took it off, and then when I paste it, I can bring it down here, which will leave the room for me. And you see how like we're getting some guides? It's not going to give you every single guide because, you know, it's trying its best to figure out from the image, but it does a pretty good job. Like it gets you in the right ballpark. And the whole point of this is you're going to be eyeballing a lot of stuff, and eyeballing it is totally fine. You don't have to worry about it being exactly precise because you're not building the user interface, you're communicating the user interface, right? So that's why you don't have to get too wrapped up in having things exactly perfect. And as you see later, it's going to end up looking a little Frankenstein, and that's okay too, because again, you're communicating the layout, not necessarily the look and feel, because there already is a style sheet or a style guide for your corporation, maybe even specifically for the application you're working on. So don't get too caught up, don't waste too much time on that kind of stuff. Just worry about getting the right elements in the right place to communicate where it is you're trying to go. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. Alrighty then. Whoops. Let me take that off again. Alright. So, sorry, I just want to check and make sure. I've got an error here. I just want to make sure that it's not a real error and it's just the, okay. I use a Chromebook for the comments, and so sometimes it gets a little unhappy. I do ask a lot of the Chromebook. Okay. So now we've got the space, right? And I'm going to flatten it again, just so I don't have to worry about, you know, moving anything out of the way. And maybe we want to say, you know, we've got this space up here that's kind of wasted and it's not really lined up. So this is another thing. Like you can just pull down and drag. This is a real good way to see, like, where are things lining up. It's not going to do anything. It's just your select box, but it's kind of nice as far as like making sure things are lined up. And yeah, okay, that's pretty good. That's a little off. Being me, I might fix that later or not. But let's just say, you know, like this is not lined up with this little guy over here. It's not lined up with anything. It sort of feels like it's floating, and we might need this space. So again, I think I'm going to move this up. Okay, and then paste it, and that way we can shift this up a little bit and make better use of the space that we've already got here. All right, and let's see, how's my alignment? not so good. Okay, sorry. I'm just a little OCD when it comes to this stuff. So we're just going to do this real quick. And B. And that looks like it might be a little bit closer. Yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, that's good. Now, the other nice thing about this is because I haven't flattened it yet, so if I did need to nudge it just a little bit, I could, because it's still treating it like a separate piece, and then when you flatten it, it becomes a part of the overall image again. And you do want to flatten it as much as you can, because otherwise you make mistakes moving things around later. All right, so now we've got this, right, and we've got the different pieces here. We do know that, they need at least, the email address and the password. So let's go over here and say, okay, well, we liked this. So here we go. This is where it gets interesting. Okay, make this a little bit bigger. And you're going to paste it. Okay, so now, it's a little bit big, but that's okay, because you've got this little handle here, and so you're going to resize it. Now just make sure that when you resize that you're doing it proportionally. Now if you just grab from the corners like this, it will keep the proportions for you. So we'll go maybe like that, maybe a little bit smaller. Okay, and then we're going to go over here again and go, okay, so we've got username, and now, gee, I don't remember, is that what we called it before, or did we call it something else? So let's go back and look. Tell me, so I didn't actually save 2 of these. See, I messed up. So I didn't save a second of these, so I'm going to come back in here. Oh, well, it just happens I still have this open, but I'm still going to take a capture of this, because I took a capture of the background, of the default landing page, but I did not do one of this. Okay. So now we'll go back. Come on. Oh, right, that's there. The last one you took is always the first one in the list here. So before they called it email address, and so I'm guessing that that's probably what it needs to be. So that's okay. Easy enough to fix. We're just going to zoom in so you guys can see this a little bit better. All right, now this is still standalone, so I am going to flatten it out, and I'm going to take this out. Oops, see, I got too close to the edge there. That's why I got that banding. Easy enough. Just go in and do it again. Oh, still not working. So this is a case where it's like, you know what? Life is short. I'm not going to keep fighting with it. I'm just going to paste right over that. Boom. And then you can come up here and grab the text tool. So over here on the right are all the default text settings. So generally I just pick one that's close enough to what I want, okay? And then you want to come in here and you can change the color, okay? You can set an outline, which really in general you're not going to do for like field labels and that kind of stuff. This is one to watch. It tends to default to shadows. I always make sure I turn that off. And then you can come in here, and if your layout uses a different font, you want to make sure you have that installed, or just find something that's close. Again, not about it being super specifically exact. You just want to get the ideas across. Then you can change the font size, which we'll have to play with, we'll see, and the line width, which isn't going to really apply because it's only going to be one line. And then there's advanced settings, which for us don't matter, but later on might be handy for you. Okay, and then just so you know too, you can actually save these styles. So over time, you can set yourself up with a little quick style sheet. And so instead of having to go through and pick and make all these changes, you can just go in and select the one that you've already pre-designed and use. So let's just go here and we're going to say email, and wow, that's huge. It's okay. Highlight it, come over here, change it. So you can either change the number or you can use the slider, whatever you prefer. And this is an opportunity to maybe bump up the size a little bit because the first one, frankly, was a little small. And then you come here, whoops, and we're just going to position it. Okay, so remember we were saying that, this text here is kind of small, and plus it mentions switch. So again, I would say, fine, we like this idea, but let's just clean up the implementation. So we're going to come here and cut this out. Oh, see, same problem. So no problem. We'll come up here and grab some of this white. Now another thing you can do, let me just show you real quick, is if for example, when you're going to want to grab the background if you're doing something where it's like, I don't want to find out exactly what this color is. Life is short. But since this is just a white background, you could come up to the shapes, and over here you can pick your shape, right? And again, make sure you don't want any shadow, you don't want any outline. Let's make sure that's turned off. Okay, and then you could just come in here and draw a white box over it. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It's the same end result. So it's whichever one makes sense to your brain in that moment. All right, so we've got that. So now we're going to put that little bit of help text under here so that we're helping the users know what it is that they're supposed to put in here. Now, yes, people know what email addresses are. See, I'm going to left align that. But maybe you're going to want to do something about, you know, the requirements for it. But, you know, at this point, you're not figuring that part of it out. This should let me over, well, we'll do that in a second. Okay, so we'll do like 6. Now, these are not even the real sizes. These are just the sizes, again, for your example, so don't stress over it too much. And we're going to want it to be a little bit less dark than the original text. But again, this is maybe not the time to stress about exactly what the rules need to be. So you can just either put in, so are you familiar with the lorem ipsum kind of thing? So lorem ipsum, let's just go here real quick, another side note. If you do a search for lorem ipsum, all that is placeholder text. And it's something that comes from way back in doing original layout. But this is, like, if you just do a search for it, there's various and sundry tools that will create it for you. And it's just a good way when you're just looking to put some text in there. You can just grab something. It follows basic English text and, you know, writing patterns without being text that people are going to get distracted by when you're talking. And that's kind of important. So that's another good tool to have. So we could just put that in here, and what, you know, in our requirements and in our conversations, we would say, we would put here, you know, explanations about what makes a valid password, or maybe a little piece about make sure your password is, you know, complex enough to be secure. Whatever it is that, as you go through your requirements gathering process, makes sense to explain to people about how you want them to put in the email address. Oh, sorry, so that would be the password. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. So this would be, you know, explaining, you know, that you need to put in a valid, you know, email, and that, you know, we're going to use this to contact you so that you don't get people putting in garbage emails, right? So it's just placeholder text for now. What the actual text would be, you would figure out later and put into your requirements to make your life easy. So this is another just power survival tip, right? So to make your life easy, put as little real text into your comps as possible. Use placeholders wherever you can. What I tend to do is I put like text or text-ish looking things for for labels. I do the actual text. But for anything like this, paragraphs, data values, that kind of stuff, for explanation text, that kind of thing, I use lorem ipsum as a placeholder, and I just refer to it in the requirements document, and that way in one place I have to go change. I can go change it there and not have to change it in the 15 comps that apply to that, because we don't have that kind of time, right? The other thing is, if you're going to be working with, you know, like maybe the text that you're going to show is a mix of static text and values pulled from the database. So maybe, you know, when you get farther down, you're going to say, you know, welcome back, username, okay? But you're not obviously going to show username, you're going to show their actual username. So what I would do is I would do, you know, welcome back, comma, and then in angle brackets put username. And you start to train everybody on your project team to understand that anything in angle brackets is a data value that's being pulled and being presented there. Because again, that way you're not people getting distracted by the name that you use there or worried about privacy or whatever else. It removes all that because all you're saying is value goes here. Okay, so that's just another power user tip. Believe me, it'll save your life. You'll get a lot less aggravated. Now this is maybe a little bit too small even just for, you know, the purposes of our conversations with the team. So let's go back here. For some reason it's not letting me do it in there. Oops, come back. There we go. So let me get off of this and come back. And I'm going to change it here. Let's make it 8. That's a little big. Let's split the difference and go 7. But you see, like, I'm not, you don't stress over this. You don't, like, freak out over it. You don't spend a lot of time on it. You're like, yeah, you get it pretty much in the right ballpark to communicate the idea. And you're like, okay, cool. So I'm liking the idea of this being, and this could change depending on your project, but for the purposes of this demo, I'm like, okay, I kind of like the white background, so I'm going to go ahead and save myself a little time here and grab this again. Now it's still got the last settings in it, right? No shadow, no outline. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill this in this way. And I'm also going to cover this up because I know I don't like that button. So I'm going to leave that just like this. But I am going to leave this because these are still valid options for the purposes of this demo or this example requirement that we're building. So I'm just going to leave these like this, but this way this piece stands out more. So let's just zoom out a little bit and let's just see it actual size. So you start to get a feel. So it's like, yes, okay, you know, there is all this other stuff going on, and this is a very busy layout, and maybe they're in love with it. But when it comes to the goal of we need more people to create accounts, we want more signups, this grabs your eye right away. This makes it very clear as they're moving, you know, from the initial view into the create an account view, hey, this is where you're going to do the stuff, right? So this is where we're going to keep it. And it looks like maybe it's a little bit large. What you think? Should we adjust that a little bit? Again, you don't really have to do this. It's your call how anal retentive you need to be about this. I'm clearly struggling with the mouse. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's flatten that now before I change my mind. All right, and now we're just going to keep going. So we've got that. Okay, we do need the password, and here's one. Whoops, wrong tool. Got to come up here and grab my selection tool again. So I do like, you know, the password, and I like the fact that it's got the little eye here because, again, you don't know, are they going to be doing this on mobile? Are they going to be doing this on, you know, regular desktop or whatever? But in all cases, it's good to let people see the password that they're putting in. So we're going to just take this the way it is, and you know what? I like all of these things, except we don't need this, right? Because in our company, we don't have a separate username from the email address, at least as part of the sign up. So I don't need this field because we're using email. I already changed that over there. And actually, if I'd noticed this beforehand, I could have saved myself some time and just grabbed this. But okay, come see, come saw. So I'm going to grab these because this is exactly how I want this. Copy it. And where is my... this one. Oh, where am I working? This one. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to paste this. Now again, it's too big. We knew that from before. So you go ahead and you kind of get it generally lined up where you want. And then again, remember, the important thing is to grab from the corner. Now on some tools you have to hold shift or control to keep it in perspective, but in this tool it just assumes that. So you just grab it here and you're just going to roughly size it to be comparable to the one that you've done before. Boom. Okay, we're almost done now. So we've got the email address, we've got the password. Maybe we'll take this down a little bit. Oh, I can't because we already gave it up. So that's the downside when you flatten, is you can't make things smaller. But again, I'm not going to worry about it. We'll put in the requirement that these will all be whatever the percentage font size is specified in the style guide. So we've got that. Control Shift T or Control T. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the Microsoft one, because they're like, well, you know, was there anything that we liked about this? And it's like, well, okay, they're not going to want to use Twitter or Discord, right? They're going to stick with their options of Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Ironic that they do Twitch. But you know what? This is kind of a good idea, right? Having trouble signing in. Now you can either copy and paste this, okay? You know, and you could resize it if you wanted or whatever. Or you could say, you know what? I like this idea, but I don't really want to go through the trouble, and we don't use all uppercase because that's hard to read, and the blue and all that. So you know what? I can just go in here and grab my text and put a little box down here that says, having trouble signing up. And it's letting me know I can't spell. There we go. And did it say anything about click for help or anything? No, it just said that, right? So it's implied that it's a sign up thing. And maybe, you know, we're like, you know what, I think we want it here, but maybe not as prominent. So maybe we'll just put it here so that it doesn't conflict with or sign up with, but it's still available to people. And maybe in the end it'll end up under the button. But let's see. So let's see, is there anything else here? So maybe this is the kind of thing too. Terms of service, privacy policy. These are the kinds of things that making them available can help people decide to sign up, because it doesn't feel like we're hiding anything. So maybe what we'll do is we'll put this up here where the button's going to be, and we'll do a privacy policy. And maybe, you know what, we kind of like the little block thing. Do we want to maybe duplicate that somehow? So maybe we can do that. Let's do All right, let's go up and grab a box here. And let's change the fill to, what, maybe a dark gray, but not as dark as the other? That's a little too dark. That's almost exactly the color of their box. Now, because this is still selected, I can come in here and change this. It's like, well, maybe I'll go a little bit lighter. Okay, and I'm going to roughly line that up. Oops. And maybe a little bit bigger. And then if you copy paste it, you'll get an exact copy. And then you can decide, well, you know, do I want to put it here? Do I want to put it here? I think we'll try it over here. Okay. And then again, I'm going to flatten everything just because it makes my life easier. Now, like I said, as you get more comfortable with it, like I normally wouldn't flatten these so often because sometimes I like to go back and tweak things, but I'm just trying to show you a real basic way of doing this. So now I'm going to come in here. I've grabbed the text tool. I'm going to throw a little text box here and say privacy policy. Or maybe you want to say view privacy policy. Maybe you want your stuff to be a little bit more actionable, right? And maybe we're going to change the font a little bit. Let's see. If we try a white, how does that work? Yeah, that's okay. I mean, we'd have to test it for the accessibility contrast. We might have to bump up the color in the background. But again, for the purposes of our discussion and the purposes of this process is just to get the concept across. Okay, so the other one is terms of service. And maybe we're going to do it like that, just because we're hip and we're a cutting edge streaming platform and we don't need all those words. Everybody knows what TOS is, right? Or not. That would be a part of your requirements gathering. Is that common enough? All right, and then you just need to decide about the button. So now this is a good time to go back to your original and say, well, what were the original buttons like? Well, first of all, that's too small. So originally this was kind of washed out. So now it's time to go back and say, so if I put something in here, and I do this, okay, that never highlights. So that's something to think about. So maybe we're going to use this as the default button. Oops, got to grab the selector. All right, and then we're going to go back in here. We're going to go, you know what? I kind of like that, you know, that button the boss is really in love with. So let's go ahead and just bring this in. Whoops. I'm so used to hitting control. My other tool requires it. And then I'm going to just resize this to be a little bit more in sync with everything else that we're doing here. And then, you know what? This could be here, or it could be over on the side. I think I kind of like it here. And then if you did another version of it for mobile, maybe you would stack it. But I'm like, yeah, you know, I kind of like that. So we're going to do that. We're going to lock that down. But then you're going to say, well, okay, but I want, when they actually have filled out the fields correctly, I want it to highlight the button so that it's more obvious. And to be honest, I would probably trim out the black around that, but we'll leave that for now. That's a judgment call on your part. So I'm going to duplicate this, right? And now we've got an inactive state one, right? Which is the one we've been working on. Okay, and now I've created a second one. Whoops. I need to scroll over. Okay, so this is now the second one that we've created, and I'm going to zoom in, and we're going to just put in filler text here again. So you can go and grab the lorem ipsum if you want, or you can just put in your own, whatever you prefer. I'm just going to throw my own in here real quick. So again, you're going to grab a text box, and you're just going to put in, whoops. Oop, that was not right. I thought I was putting it in, let's try that again. I thought it was going in white, because it was. Okay, so let's make this black again. And we'll do this. And to avoid arguments, I just do complete and utter garbage because I don't want to have a discussion about the example I used. Okay, to be honest, I would probably have cut out, oh heck, I'm going to do it. I would cut this out. Because when somebody starts typing, of course, you're not going to have this here. Right, this is just a placeholder. Okay, and then we grab this again, and then we can put it over here. And we'll just copy paste it. You know, this is all about making it easy for yourself. So copy and paste is your friend, you know, not worrying about the details too much are your friend. And actually this would show up like this, so you can just get away with that. And then you can go ahead and do the cuts again so that you can populate this. All right, and let's just grab this guy again. Whoops, did I lose it? I did lose it. Control Z is your friend. That lets you undo things. There we go. Why am I losing this? There we go. And by the way, not uncommon to be sitting here doing this and talking to yourself. So if you catch yourself doing that, don't freak out. So for this, I always do 1, 2, 3, 4, because again, I don't want to argue over the year that I used. The point being, now that may not work for your world. So if that's the case, then maybe pick, you know, something in the future, whatever it is that will work better in your environment. That's something that you'll know. And then, are you going to left align? Are you going to right align? I'm going to put it in the middle just because I don't feel like arguing about it right now. So this is a month birthday. Okay, so I would do 2 digits just to communicate that it is a 2-digit field. Come here. There we go. I can't help myself. I always have to nudge these things in. Okay, and then maybe for your month, maybe you are spelling them out. So we'll do it that way, or maybe you're using numbers, in which case that's what you would show. Whatever your corporate, you know, standard is what you were going to show here. But the whole reason I went through this is because A, you know, it's just good to maybe show this kind of an example to go along with the empty one, but also because I'm thinking, you know what? I think that this button needs a little more pop to it. Forgive me, graphic designer friends out there. They all hate when people tell them that, but I'm just using that to be funny. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to create my own button. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, well, instead of that color, let's make it, whoops, I didn't still have it selected. Let's make it that color. Okay, because doesn't that catch your eye, especially if it changes after you complete all of your fields, right? And then we will come up here again and grab some text. And we'll put next in here because that's what they were using before. And so we're going to stick with that. But maybe let's make it bigger. Okay, maybe not that big. I do get carried away sometimes. All right, and then I will center this. And now you've got your 2 comps. Let me see, can I pull these side by side? I think I can. Or not. Okay, so when we went into our meeting now, having done our initial research and comparative analysis with the other companies out there, we would say, okay, this is our recommendation for the view, and you could actually just, you know, start it with the standard view, right? Explain why, talk to everybody about it, and then say, and then as they go through, to help make it very clear what their next step is, we're going to activate this button once all these fields are filled in, and again, you would show it to them in context, right? So you can do actual size and then zoom in if they want to see more details. See, it's not really that bad. I mean, I went a little long here because when you're doing this yourself, it actually goes along much faster. Having to explain it makes it a little bit slower, but this is the general idea. You can come in and you can copy and paste, and yeah, it's a little bit Frankenstein-y, right? We've got the purple here from Twitch. We've got, you know, some other little elements in here that maybe are not exact, but it doesn't matter. The point of this is to make a very quick and simple one that you can then point to and get away from that conversation of, oh, you know, you're just trying to verbally describe it, which opens it up to interpretation by everybody's brains, as opposed to saying, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what it would look like. We'd have these elements here. We'd add these additional fields here. We would activate the button when the fields were filled in. And that all just helps to really drive home and explain to people what it is that you're suggesting, and it focuses the conversation. It makes it very clear that everybody's talking about the same thing. You don't have to worry about people, with different pictures in their head because you're all looking at the same one. And this is something you can do yourself. I promise you. You saw it doesn't take, you don't need a college, degree in graphic design. You don't have to spend hours and hours learning this tool. What do we use? We used we used 3 tools in here plus the screen capture. That's it. And from that, you can make as many of these as you need. You can share them, put them in your documents. You can put them out someplace for everybody else to take a look at. It's easy. It's simple. And frankly, sometimes it's art therapy. It's actually not a bad thing to have to do. So all those times that you've maybe not done it because you didn't feel it was a part of your job or you didn't have the skills to do it, this hopefully will take that away from you, right? And realize that you can do this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And if it needs to be polished up before it goes to upper management, you probably have a graphic design team or a UX team or whatever. Or if not, you can go and use a different tool. So let me just real quick, because I know this is running long, but I'm just going to show you real quick. If you do want to take it to the next level, if you do need to go a little bit more with this, there is this tool called Azure. Now it's not, let's see, I'm even spelling it. It's not the Microsoft Cloud thing. So this is, let me bring this up. So this is a tool that I have been using. Let me take our promotion thing off of there. By the way, you can still get, since it's here, you can still get the free survey guide. If you haven't gotten it yet, you just go to thebeazone.com/survey ebook, and then you can get the free one, which is what we talked about a couple weeks ago. But this is how, so the surveys were what got you some more of the information, which is helping you figure out your UI. But if you are looking for something that makes building wireframes and these kinds of trees easier, it's definitely worth looking at this company. It's AXURE. It is really a drag and drop solution. Again, you can go in and change fonts and that kind of stuff. You can bring in images. It also gives you a library to pull from. So if you need to take things to the next level, this is a good way to go, but you don't have to. You absolutely can do all of this. Let me go back to it. Just with a tool like Snagit. And what I said was $50. And both of these, whether you go with Snagit or you go with Azure, both of them have a free trial. So you can go ahead and you can give it a try, see if it works for you, get familiar with it. Both of them have excellent free tutorials, sample files you can use, libraries you can tap into. It really just makes your life easier. It makes your requirements much clearer. Your team in the beginning may not be comfortable with it if they have not worked with somebody who could do this before. Don't let that stop you, because overall it saves you a ton of time, because by putting these things together this way and by putting it in front of people exactly this way, you're going to find that you're going to catch issues, you're going to catch problems much faster. You're going to catch them while they're on paper when it is much easier and cheaper to fix them. If they decide that they don't like Next anymore and they want to make this submit, right? It is so much easier to do it this way, get everybody to sign off on it. This is a minor example, but it's much easier to get them to do this. Maybe they decide that they want it to be a big button, but they want it to be left aligned for whatever reason. The point is, it's a lot easier and faster to do this in a couple of comps to see if everybody's okay with it. They may have the idea, look at it, and go, oh my God, no, that's terrible, let's put it back. That happens a lot. So it's much better to catch those things now, do them on paper, do them on these quick and dirty comps. You will save so much time, so much money down the road that even if they were uncomfortable with it in the beginning, they will see the value of it in the end, and it will just become a part of your process, and it will make all of your projects much more successful. Okay? So, if you have any questions, if you want more information on it, if you want me to do a walkthrough of how you could quickly build this type of thing in Azure, reach out and let us know, because I'd be happy to do that for you. Frankly, that would probably, I don't know if I would do that live. Let us know. Let us know if you feel it would be more valuable to do it live, or if you prefer that I just make it available and you don't care how, because I could do it as a couple of recorded videos to put up, 6 of one, half dozen the other. So reach out to us, thebeazone.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at twitter.com/thebeazone. You can tweet at us or DM us, whatever you like. But just let me know. I'm more than happy to do it for you if you'd like. Or if you'd like to do a little bit more about doing it this way with, these quick and dirty kind of things, that's good too. To be honest, most of the people that I mentor, most of the people I train, don't go beyond doing it in Snagit, and that's perfectly fine. It absolutely 100% works, and it is absolutely nothing to be intimidated by, because it is super simple. There is no penalty for making a mistake. You can always Control Z, or if you completely screw it up, throw it away and start over. It takes minutes, and yet it has such immense value going forward. I have had teams not only use this as, you know, the jumping off point for the graphic design team, but then even like the marketing team used it to start to flesh out what their promotional materials were going to be like. Of course, they, you know, eventually went and grabbed screen caps of the final product, but this makes it possible for things to happen in parallel because people have the right picture in their head. I've had training departments use these kinds of things, again, to start writing out their training, and then they just went back and replaced it with the actual screen captures at the time. Instead of having to wait until everything's done and then have this huge crush, they had the chance to do it in parallel with development. Everybody was able to keep moving, and then when it came to the end, there weren't so many hysterical rushes, so many late nights, so many blown weekends, because they had 80 or 90% of it there. They needed to go and do a couple screen captures and they were done. So you will be a hero by simply taking the time to get your hands on a tool like this and learn 3 or 4 of the tools that's in it. You don't have to learn everything about it. 3 to 4 pieces out of it and you're good to go. Like I said, if you are interested, particularly in Snagit, we do have the links in Facebook and on YouTube. And if you use those, you know, they're affiliate links, so we will make a couple of pennies out of it. Okay? I know this was a lot, but as always, you can always reach out to us if you want more information, if you're curious about, you know, more, or if you want to see a detailed dive on the Azure tool. Go to thebazone.com. You can reach us on Twitter, the BA Zone. We're on Instagram. We're on Periscope. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. Basically, wherever you want us to be, that's where we try to be. Thank you so much. I hope this is helpful. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to see some of the things that you're going to do. Go ahead, throw them into Facebook, throw them, email them to us. We would love to see the work that you're doing out there. All right? And I will be back next week. Like I said, Mara's off for a little while, but I will be here next week with another topic. Between there and then, give this a try, have some fun with it, and I think you'll be very, very satisfied. We'll talk again soon. Bye.